What kind of father lets his own son starve? Inside $1 million restaurant. Not on the streets. Not in some shelter. But right in downtown Chicago, under golden chandeliers, while everyone else cut into $90 steaks. Friday night, 7:15 p.m. Michigan Avenue. The air smelled like grilled ribeye and red wine. Glasses clinked. Laughter shook the room. But at one table, silence. A little boy sat there in a crisp vest. Shoes polished. Hair slicked. Everything about him screamed money. Except for his stomach. No plate. No food. Just a kid gripping his belly, trying not to cry. His stomach growled louder than the jazz band playing in the corner. And here's the twist. That child wasn't poor. He wasn't abandoned. He was a millionaire's son. Ignored. Overlooked. Left to starve. Be real with me. If you saw that with your own eyes, a rich man's kid starving while his father scrolled his phone, would you step in? Or would you pretend it's not your problem? Type your answer in the comments right now, before you even hear what happened next. She noticed him the third time she passed the table. Empty setting. No food. A kid just sitting there, shoulders slumped, hands pressed against his stomach. She slowed. Bent down. Soft voice. "Baby, you okay?" He shook his head. Didn't say much. Just stared down at the tablecloth. She kept moving. She had other tables. But her mind stayed there. Every time she dropped a plate at another booth, her eyes flicked back. Every time she poured a drink, she saw him still sitting empty. Finally, she walked straight to the front. The manager stood there, arms folded, scanning the room like a watchdog. "That boy in the corner," she said. "He hasn't been served." The manager didn't even look. "Not your concern," he muttered. "He's hungry. You got your section. Stick to it. He's a child. He's with a paying guest. If there's a problem, the man will say something." She bit down on her lip, holding the words back. But inside it burned. She turned, glanced across the floor. The boy's stomach rose and fell hard. His head dropped lower. She went back, leaned close again. "You want something to eat?" This time his lips moved. Quiet. "Yes." That one word cut deeper than anything. Yes. So soft, it almost wasn't there. But it was enough. She straightened. Looked across again. The manager's eyes locked on her. Hard stare. Arms folded tighter. She stepped toward him. "You're really gonna let a child sit there with nothing?" He leaned in, voice sharp. "Don't start. You think you're saving the world? This place runs on image. That man spends big money here. You don't embarrass him. You don't make us look bad. He's a kid. And you'll lose your job if you can't follow directions." Her chest tightened. Her hands balled into fists by her sides. Back at the table, the boy shifted in his seat. He wiped at his face with the back of his hand. Nobody else even noticed. The laughter around him carried on like he didn't exist. She walked back again, slower this time. Dropped off a plate at another booth. Poured a glass at another table. But her eyes kept drifting back to him. The room smelled like grilled steak, butter, and garlic. Plates piled high with sides. Servers rushing. But for him, nothing. She bent low one more time. "Don't worry. I got you." She walked straight to the front again. Voice steady. "That boy hasn't eaten yet." The manager didn't move. "Not your problem." Her jaw tightened. "He's sitting there with nothing. Focus on your paying tables." She stared at him. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." He crossed his arms, eyes scanning the room like she wasn't worth his time. She took a step closer. "You hear his stomach? You see his face?" He shook his head. "I told you, don't embarrass this house. He's with a man who spends money here. That's all I care about. So we just let a kid starve? You want to keep your job?" The words hung heavy. Her hands pressed against the tray at her side. Every second, she thought about the boy sitting there alone. She looked back across the floor. His head was down. His lips moved slightly, like he was whispering to himself. Her chest sank. That sound, quiet, small, like he was telling himself to hold on. She turned back. "You ever had a kid go hungry?" The manager's voice snapped. "Don't play games with me. This is business. You do as told." "You know what's crazy?" she said. "It's always business. Until it's your own." For the first time, his eyes met hers. Cold. "You don't want to push me. Then fire me," she said. "But I won't just walk past him." He leaned in, low voice. "You're replaceable." She didn't answer. She looked back at the boy. His shoulders hunched tighter. his hand rubbing across his stomach. And in that moment, she made up her mind. She moved toward the kitchen. Every step, her heart pounded. Every step, she thought of losing her paycheck, her rent, her lights. But she also thought about that boy's yes. One word. Yes. So soft, but still ringing in her head. She grabbed a small plate. Bread. A few slices tucked under a napkin. Not much, but enough to quiet him for a while. She walked back onto the floor, holding it close to her side. The manager's eyes followed her every move. Arms still crossed. Head tilted, waiting to see what she would do. She passed by her other tables first. Dropped drinks. Picked up plates. Kept her steps casual, like nothing was happening. Then she reached the corner. The boy's eyes lifted, slow and tired. She leaned in. Set the plate down, quick and quiet. Whispered low. Here. Eat. He looked at her, tears filling his eyes. He reached for the bread with both hands. Bit down fast, like he hadn't eaten all day. Across the room, the manager shifted. Eyes locked. He saw everything. She didn't back away. She stood right there beside the boy. Let him chew. Let him breathe. She knew what she had done. She knew what was coming. But she also knew one thing for certain. That child wasn't hungry anymore. And for her, that was worth everything. Real quick, let me ask you something. If you were in her shoes, if your boss told you to ignore a starving child, would you risk your job to feed him? Be honest. Drop your answer in the comments right now. From across the room, the manager's voice cut sharp. Step into the back. Heads turned. Forks stopped midair. The boy froze, holding a crust of bread in both hands. She stayed calm. I'm with a customer, she said, her tone even. You heard me, he shot back. Now. A man at the bar leaned to his friend. She's in trouble. The friend shook his head. For feeding a kid? That's crazy. The boy swallowed hard, looking between them. His lips parted. Don't go, he whispered. She placed a hand lightly on the table. I'm right here, she told him softly. The manager stepped closer. You think you're a hero, he hissed. You just embarrassed this house. Murmurs spread around them. One woman whispered, embarrassed? That kid was starving. Another voice pushed back, but rules are rules. The room split. Some whispering in support. Others siding with authority. The tension thickened. The boy reached for another piece. Tore it, slower this time. Eyes locked on her, like she was the only safe thing in the room. You're done here, the manager said. Go ahead, she answered. But he's eating first. A couple near the window clapped once, quiet but steady. About time someone stood up, the man said. The woman beside him nodded. God bless her. But from another table, a scoff. She'll be lucky if she walks out with a job. The boy finished chewing. Looked at her again. Thank you, he whispered one more time. The manager turned red. Enough. Office. Now. She didn't move. She stood tall. Eyes steady, voice calm. He needed food. That's all that matters. The room held its breath. Every diner watching. Some ready to clap. Some ready to see her fall. And in that silence, one truth stood clear. She had broken the rule. But she had done the right thing. The manager didn't let it slide. He stormed over, voice sharp. Office. Now. She stood still. I'm on the floor. You're off the floor. Let's go. The boy tugged at her sleeve. Don't leave, he whispered. She leaned down. I'll be back, sweetheart. Keep eating. The room stayed quiet as she followed him through the swinging door. Inside, he slammed it shut. You've gone too far, he snapped. All I did was feed a child. You disobeyed me. I followed my conscience. Conscience doesn't pay bills. This is business. You crossed the line. She folded her arms. You think I care about your rules when a kid's stomach is growling? He stepped closer. Don't test me. I can have you out of here before the night's over. Then do it. His jaw locked tight. You think you're special? You're not. You're replaceable. She didn't raise her voice. I'm not scared. You fire me for this. I'll take it further. His laugh was sharp. Further? To who? Nobody's gonna care. Her eyes narrowed. You ever heard of the Illinois Department of Labor? They handle retaliation complaints. Firing someone for doing the right thing? That sticks. His smile slipped. You wouldn't. Try me. The door swung open. One of the line cooks leaned in. You good? She nodded. All good. The manager waved him out. This isn't over, he muttered. No. It's just starting. She didn't wait for him to make the move. That same week, she filed her complaint. Workplace retaliation. Wrongful threat of termination. It wasn't just about her paycheck. It was about principle. At the counter downtown, the clerk looked at her form. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked. "Yes. You know it can get messy." "I don't care. A child went hungry while his father drank wine, and I got punished for fixing it. That's not staying quiet." He slid the stamped copy back across the counter. "You'll hear from us." Word started spreading in the restaurant. One server whispered to another. "She actually filed." "Bold move," came the reply. "She might win," someone else said. The manager scoffed when he heard. "She doesn't have a chance. No way this sticks." But he was wrong. Inquiries started coming. Emails. Calls. The state wanted answers. What happened with that child? Why did your staffer say she was threatened for feeding him? The whispers in the kitchen grew louder. She wasn't lying. I saw it. Yeah, me too. Even the bartender muttered under his breath. She got guts. I wouldn't have done it, but she's right. The manager tried to laugh it off. Tried to tell people it was nothing. She'll fold. They always do. But this time, he wasn't facing just a waitress. He was facing the truth. And the system was already knocking on his door. Weeks passed. Then came the notice. Hearing scheduled. Cook County. Labor Board. The day arrived. She walked unsteady. Not in her apron. Not in her uniform. But professional. Straight shoulders. The manager was already there. Suit too tight. Jaw set. He didn't look at her. The room quieted. The officer in charge called it open. Case number 2147. Alleged workplace retaliation. Parties present. "Yes," she said. "Yes," the manager muttered. The questioning began. "State your name for the record." She did. "How long have you been employed at the establishment?" 3 years. "And what happened on the night in question?" Her voice was calm. "There was a child sitting in the dining area. He had no food. Hours passed. He was clearly hungry. I gave him bread. My manager threatened me for it." The officer raised his head. "Threatened how?" "He said I'd lose my job. He told me I was replaceable. He told me I embarrassed the house." All eyes shifted to the manager. "Your response?" He leaned forward. She disobeyed. Simple as that. There are rules in place. Staff follow direction. She didn't. Was the child served food before she stepped in? The pause said everything. "No," he admitted. "Why not?" He fumbled. Not her concern. The guest hadn't ordered. Her voice cut in. "The boy told me he was hungry. That was enough." The officer nodded slowly. "Any witnesses?" 2 servers stepped forward. One spoke. "I saw her give the boy food. And I heard the manager tell her she'd be out of a job." The other added. "Yeah, that's true." He said it clear as day. The manager snapped back. "They're lying. They're covering for her." "Why would they lie?" the officer asked. Silence. His face stiffened. Next came the cross. "Sir, do you believe a child should be left without food in your establishment?" He shifted. "That's not the point. The point is authority. Answer the question." His voice cracked. "No, a child shouldn't be left without food. Yet in your house, that's what happened." His jaw clenched. "Yes." Gasps whispered through the small crowd in the room. The officer turned back to her. "Anything further you'd like to add?" "Yes," she said firmly. "This isn't just about me. Workers shouldn't be punished for doing the right thing. Feeding a child isn't insubordination. It's humanity." The silence stretched long. Every eye in the room fixed on her. The officer's pen tapped once against the desk. "We'll deliberate. Decision will be issued." She exhaled slow. Not victory. Not yet. But the truth had been spoken, clear as daylight. 2 weeks later, the decision came down. They met again. Same room. Same tension. The officer opened the file. "All parties present." "Yes," she answered. "Yes," the manager said, his voice flat. The officer cleared his throat. "After reviewing testimony, witness accounts, and written complaint, this board finds in favor of the employee." The room stirred. Whispers spread quick. The officer continued. "The evidence shows retaliation was threatened. The evidence shows an employee was punished for providing food to a hungry child. That is unacceptable under Illinois labor law." Her heart pounded, but her face stayed steady. The officer turned toward the manager. "You are ordered to reinstate her position provide back pay for lost hours, and submit a written correction to staff policy. Furthermore, you are personally reprimanded. The manager slammed his hand on the table. This is insane. The officer's voice stayed calm. Sir, you admitted the child went without food. You admitted you threatened termination. Those facts stand. He tried again. She embarrassed the restaurant. Another voice rose from the back. One of the servers. No, she saved it. She saved us from shame. The officer nodded. This hearing is closed. She stood. Quiet. Strong. The manager shot her a glare. You'll regret this. She didn't raise her voice. You had your chance. You chose power over compassion. Now you answer for it. The boy's image crossed her mind. Small hands tearing bread, whispering thank you. That was her victory. Reporters outside caught wind of the case. One asked, Ma'am, do you feel vindicated? She paused. This isn't about me. It's about every worker scared to speak up, and about a child who should have never been left hungry in a room full of food. Another reporter pressed, What do you say to the restaurant? She answered simple, Do better. Be human. The manager pushed past the cameras, head down. No swagger. No smirk. Just silence. Her phone buzzed that evening. A text from a coworker. We're proud of you. You gave us a voice. She set it down, closed her eyes for a moment. It wasn't joy. It wasn't relief. It was justice. And that was enough. She went back to work the following week. Same dining room. Same polished tables. But everything felt different. Co-workers greeted her with nods. One whispered, respect. Another said, You gave us courage. Even customers noticed. A woman stopped her. You the one who stood up, right? She nodded. Good for you. The woman said. Takes guts. But she didn't brag. Didn't celebrate. She just clocked in and did her job. At the end of her shift, she sat down with a younger server. The girl asked quietly, Was it worth it? All that stress? She answered plain, Yes, because that boy ate. And because now you know you don't have to stay silent. The younger one looked down. I don't think I'd be that brave. You don't have to be me, she said. You just have to be human. News of the case spread beyond the restaurant. At a church in Bronzeville, an older man brought it up. Y'all hear about that waitress downtown? Stood up for a hungry kid. Heads nodded. That's Chicago, someone replied. We don't just watch people suffer. We step in. Even at the local union hall, her name came up. One worker said, That's what we mean when we talk about dignity on the job. It's not just about wages. It's about doing right. She was asked once more by a reporter, What lesson do you want people to take from this? Her answer was steady. Authority without compassion is weakness. Rules mean nothing if they strip away humanity. And silence? Silence makes us complicit. The reporter pressed. So what would you say to workers afraid to speak out? Don't be reckless. But don't stay quiet when a child is hurting. If you lose your voice, you lose your power. That night, she sat at her kitchen table. Bills stacked. Rent still due. Life still heavy. But her heart was clear. She thought of that boy. The way he whispered, Thank you. The way his shoulders relaxed after the first bite. That image stayed with her. Not the courtroom. Not the ruling. Just the boy's small voice saying what words could never fully carry. And so she carried the lesson forward. Not just for herself. Not just for her coworkers. But for anyone listening. If you're watching this right now, hear me. When you see wrong, don't look away. When you see hunger, don't turn your head. Because authority without accountability is nothing. And kindness, even when it costs you, is everything. Don't scroll past this like it's just another video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe right now, because if you stay silent, you're no different than the manager who watched and did nothing.